Finally, after the Houthis declare war on the United States, Joe Biden puts them on a limited terror watch list, and it took him 3 years to do it. Meanwhile, they're at war with us, and we're making nice. I find some of the decisions of the Biden administration beyond perplexing, literally into the category of the twilight zone. Here's an example. The Houthis are a ferocious, vicious terror organization, funded, trained, directed entirely by Iran. Everybody knows it, and Iran brags about it, and the Houthis proclaim it. So that's off the table for discussion. They are a radical Muslim organization who wants a worldwide caliphate. Yay, in the spirit of that which is proclaimed by the Ayatollahs in Iran. They were on the terror watch list for very good reason. And yet, one of Joe Biden's first activities as president of the United States, Claire Lopez, was to take the Houthis off the terror watch list for no reason that was ever explained. Fast forward 3 years, they've been doing what they do best, which is provide terror in the Middle East, but it got much worse. They've been shooting at ships. They've been shooting at Saudi Arabia. They've been shooting at Israel. And as you just mentioned, Claire, they've even been shooting at our military. The strike groups we have there could destroy every military installation they have within 45 minutes, but we haven't done so. What we have done is we just relisted them as a global terrorist, but that's not the same as the FTO list. Let's start with that. Explain the difference.
Right. So, as you said, one of the first acts of the Biden administration was to remove the Houthis from the foreign terrorist organizations list, to which former President Donald Trump had listed them, had named them. And so now, really breaking news just, before, as we're talking just about, the Biden administration has designated the Houthis, which are a Shiite branch of Islam. They follow the fifth Imam, as opposed to the Iranian regime that follows the 12th, but that's okay. Their name actually is Ansar Allah, which means followers, partisans of God, of Allah. Especially designated global designation is a little bit different than being named to the FTO list. On both of these lists, they both trigger sanctions. Both the FTO list and the specially designated global terrorists, that triggers sanctions. However, it appears that the Biden administration has taken great pains to avoid imposing too much of a burden on the Yemenis, on the Houthis. Under the FTO designation, there are travel bans that are imposed on members of whatever group that is. And also, on the FTO list, sanctions are levied against those who provide material support to that group. And that would, of course, include the Iranians and others as well. For this one, the specially designated global terrorist designation, first of all, it doesn't even take effect for a month, for 30 days. And it does not include those two provisions, the material support provision or the travel ban on its members. So that includes things like not going after Yemeni ports, for example, that the Houthis use, for example, to receive missiles and drones from Iran. It's
so let me
not
stop
much.
You a second. Isn't it a declaration of war to shoot at an American warship in international waters?
Well, it certainly ought to be. It doesn't seem that the Biden administration is looking at it that way.
Claire, I don't get it. They have launched literally over 100 missiles at Saudi Arabia, at American troops, at Israel, at American ships, and international shipping in international waters. In addition, they have commandeered vessels in international waters. They're declaring war, Claire, on the world. And yet, we're having a discussion about limited sanctions that take place after a delay when everybody I've spoken to said if somebody else was in the White House of the other party, A, that never would have happened, but B, if it did, all the sites that store and launch any kind of offensive weapon would have been dust by now. Why are we putting up with this? And I'm not being rhetorical. What could possibly be in American interest to allow this to continue without a very serious, overwhelming annihilation of the people involved in these crimes?
Well, you're absolutely right to ask the question. And I think it goes to the worldview of the Biden administration, which is that they are still, for whatever reason, desperate to try to revive the moribund Iran nuclear talks, especially as the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, has issued its most recent report, November of 2023, that describes how close the Iranian regime is to having plenty and more of highly enriched uranium with which to make warheads, which, in my opinion, I've said before, I think they've been making warheads for a long time. But somehow the Biden administration doesn't want to offend the mullahs, the ruling clergy of Iran. And the other part of that is they're petrified of what they're thinking of or calling the possibility of escalation in the region. Well, if we don't put a stop to this, we and partners, allies like Britain, which joined us in the strikes, such as they were, against Houthi targets inside of Yemen some days ago, if we don't put a stop to what's going on, they'll just take that as a sign of weakness and continue, which they are continuing even after, the operation, as they call it, Operation Prosperity Guardian strikes. The Houthis have launched more missiles, more attacks against shipping, international shipping, as well as U.S. ships, which have been hit.